Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Nick from Forex for Noobs with the Forex analysis, with the daily analysis rather. Today is Tuesday, the 7th of July 2020. Time is 12:01 here in the UK. And you're looking at an empty Forex calendar. A very, very, very empty Forex calendar. Extremely empty. Unfortunately, because I like full Forex calendars because they mean that we're going to get a lot of market movement. So next week, we have a pretty full calendar from Wednesday onwards. This week, probably one of the emptiest calendars I've seen in a very long time. So, what do we have coming up today? Nothing. It's all gone. Tomorrow, day after, nothing. And then Friday afternoon, we've got some stuff. So basically, just completely ignore the news this week because there is no news to pay attention to. Doesn't really matter that much. I'm sure there's still going to be some potential setups for us. Just not as many as I would like, probably. So let's dive right into the analysis. Fix that. Righto, so my USD oil, not USD oil, I always call it USD oil, it's just WTI crude, it's just oil. Long positions, just not really doing anything, but this is a trade that I'm planning on holding for several weeks, probably even several months, so I don't care. USD CHF, let's take a look at what's going on here. Now, price on USD CHF is hitting a low and stalling out at the low. Let's take a quick look at this currency strength tool I've coded for you guys and see what that's telling us. So right now, the USD is pretty weak, but it's getting stronger, whereas CHF is pretty weak. At least it's not minus. And it seems to be getting a little bit stronger, but barely. I'm going to take a quick look at the smart money positioning tool. This is another tool which there's going to be more explanation into how exactly these work. This tool uses some data along with a few other things to tell us where the smart money is positioning itself in the market at the moment. These tools are all available to members via this menu, although the smart money tool isn't on this menu yet because I only released it yesterday, but it will be on this menu this afternoon. I'm just quickly checking. Yeah, this tool hasn't updated yet. So I'll get this updated soon. The numbers here haven't updated for some reason. It was released yesterday, so what can you do? But they're still pretty, I'm looking at the raw numbers, they're still pretty accurate, it would seem. Just give me a sec. Sorry guys, this seems a bit all over the place, but I just want to get the numbers, all the data that I'm using to calculate these up on my other screen, because these ones here have not updated for the week yet. So I just want to double check that we're all good with this. Right. Yeah, it's all pretty similar. CHF still seems to be leading. JPY seems to be shrinking a little bit. Right. Cool. So basically what this tells us where the smart money is positioned, which is pretty good because it gives us an indication as to whether the currency strength numbers are going to indicate a good direction for us to trade in. There'll be more explanation on this in the coming days. But for example, just looking at this right here, we see that New Zealand is -8, but on the currency strength indicator they're +38. So this would probably indicate that New Zealand is kind of potentially going to be slowing down and that it might not be climbing as fast as it has been recently, because the smart money is starting to go bearish on New Zealand. So it just gives us some ideas like that. But when they line up, that's when things look quite good. But like I said, there'll be a bit more explanation into how all of this works in the coming days. But what we're looking for right now would be we're seeing a lot of CHF weakness, and overall we're seeing a fair bit of dollar weakness. Sorry, I meant to say CHF strength. We're seeing dollar weakness and CHF strength. Both the currency strength tool indicate this, and the smart money positioning tool indicate this. We're seeing CHF strength, dollar weakness, CHF strength, although the currency strength tool isn't suggesting that it's quite as strong as the smart money tool is. So what does this mean for us? It means that I probably wouldn't want to go long on USD CHF, to be honest. Looking at it right now, it's at the bottom of a range, but it seems like long is a bit of a risk in this scenario. So I'm not going to go long there. Probably not even going to go short. Probably going to do nothing with this right now. I'm just going to leave it. GBPAUD, this looks sort of interesting actually. See this shape here? This kind of W shape on the daily. Usually when you see that, if you were to drop down to a lower time frame, like the 8 hour, or maybe even the 4 hour, what you're going to see is a pretty nice range. So this is actually an almost complete range. The bounce from the top isn't great, but it does have two bounces from the top. Remember, I've been saying for the past few weeks, the M shape. So this is the M shape, two from the top, and it's got the W shape, which is two from the bottom. So M and W equal range. The W is almost complete. Price is pushing up to the top here. When it hits this resistance area, I'll definitely be looking for a short from here. It seems like that will be a pretty good opportunity. Moving to the currency strength tool, AUD and GBP, they seem pretty evenly matched. There's not a big difference between these two. It seems like AUD is losing some strength. GBP is gaining some strength. So that would support the long that we're currently seeing. Once it hits the top, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a turn in those. But the point is that they're kind of equalizing. So there's not much difference between these two numbers. That's the main point. And when there's not that much difference between the two numbers, it's a good indicator that things are going to be ranging instead of trending. So it doesn't surprise me that we're in a range here because we're seeing some kind of equalization on the currency strength indicator, which is pretty decent for us. Price action says we're in a range. Currency strength says we're in a range. So it's looking good for a range. So I'm actually quite interested in trading short from the top here. GBPUSD, what's going on over here? Nothing too much. Knock this off the list. Euro AUD. I'm just moving sideways and messing around here. There's nothing here that I want to trade anymore. I was looking at it last week for some potentials, but it's just not happening this week. Euro GBP is somewhat interesting. I'm expecting some bullish moves on the euro this week based on some of the economics I've been reading. Currency strength isn't that that excited about the euro, nor are actually the nor are the big boy traders. No one's excited about the euro. Everyone's going short on the euro, it would seem. I'm a bit surprised, really. Everything I've been looking at suggests that we're going to see some euro strength, but it's possible that we don't. Regardless, I don't think we're going to see pound strength this week. So even if we don't see the euro strength I'm wanting, we're not going to see pound strength. I wouldn't be surprised if this spends most of the week moving sideways. That being said, I know some of you want to get in long here. I'm just not seeing it, guys. I'm not going to do it. Just doesn't look that safe to me. New Zealand JPY, we're looking for a potential short here last week, which never actually happened. It has pushed further up to the resistance area, but it's not quite it's not quite broken the resistance area clearly yet. It's still kind of moving sideways. I'm pretty unconvinced about a bullish move here, but I no longer see strong potential for a bearish move, so I won't do anything with that. So that wraps up what we were looking at last week. Let's look for some new stuff this week. There's a whole lot of ranging. Definitely a pretty strong range on EURCAD, but the problem is that it seems to break out of the range quite a bit, so it might be a bit tough to trade. But regardless, I'm going to look for it to hit the bottom of this range, so around about the 1.5 to 15 for a potential long here. But it's pretty far from it right now, so I don't know what that setup would actually look like. It's just an area I'm watching for a potential long. We'll see when and if it pushes down there, if we get an actual viable setup. Euro New Zealand is hitting a pretty decent support area. It's boxed in between the 200 moving average and the support area. New Zealand's quite strong right now. There's potential for a long on Euro New Zealand. We're just not seeing that many strong moves the past few weeks. So I'm very apprehensive about getting into these reversals that have large targets because I just don't see the volatility needed to get us to those targets. We're just not seeing those kinds of moves. We're not seeing that kind of follow through in the market. So when I see a setup like this that normally I would be jumping in on very quickly, a nice reversal setup, I'm just very apprehensive right now. So yeah, technically speaking, there could be a long here, but I'm just not convinced. The cool thing is, looking at the currency strength tool, let me explain to you a little bit about this tool and what these numbers actually mean, because I haven't done that yet, and I haven't put a user guide here, which I will be doing this week. So the currency strength tool is pretty simple. Basically, it uses several factors to give us a strength score for each currency. In the future, what I'm planning on doing is combining these scores from the smart money positioning, the strength score, and then the price action strength score, which is the next tool that I'm going to be coding, combining them all together into a single dashboard. So we'll still maintain these separate dashboards for each tool, but then I want to combine them all together just to make it easier to read for everyone and to make it easier to kind of consume this data. If we have it all packed into one dashboard, kind of like an overall score for each currency, and then go into even more depth with a page for each and every pair, that'll be a lot easier for you guys to consume, because right now I understand it's a little bit confusing with the scores here and having to switch between the pages, but you know, let's just recognize that these tools are just coming out right now. So baby steps into them getting a little bit better and easier for you guys to consume. But the point is that when we look at Euro New Zealand, we're seeing some GBP is on the move. Yeah, it's dropping down on the 1 hour. Where's GBPUSD? Pushing up on. Yeah, it's quite a big move actually. But it's just a blip on the daily chart, isn't it? Mainly focusing on daily chart in this analysis, so this is just a blip on the daily chart. So yeah, let's go back to what I was explaining in regards to the tool. No, it was, where was it? What were we looking at? Euro New Zealand was the pair, yeah. Right, so, yeah, this tool gives you a score for each currency pair. For each currency, rather, not currency pair. So New Zealand right now has a score of 38. The number below it, this number is the shorter term score. So the shorter term score is very useful because it alerts us early on of changes to the strength of a currency. The score that is displayed here is very possibly going to be the score that this is going to be in the coming hours or in the coming days. This is a kind of an early indicator of a change that might be coming to the top number. So basically what we're seeing right now is we're seeing some strengthening of the euro and some weakening of the New Zealand dollar. Right now, at this very moment, the score is still pretty strong on New Zealand. It's the strongest of all the pairs of all the currencies right now. Euro is right in the middle of strength-wise, but we can see that this is dropping down to quite low. It's dropping down to second last place actually, whereas the euro is starting to climb to close to the second place based on the numbers that we're seeing right now. So we're starting to see that shift already, and that ties in very nicely with the pure price action that we're seeing on the chart. Pure price action we're seeing on the chart is telling us that we're getting a reversal from this support area. So everything is suggesting a good long position on Euro New Zealand. The only thing that's stopping me is just the fact that we're not seeing follow through right now in the market. But you could technically, it would be valid to enter a long trade here. Also, one thing that you would really need to consider is the messiness to the left here. Price could easily, on its way up, just get stuck here and never quite hit that target. So there's definitely potential for an entry here, especially if you were to drop down to lower time frames. You could technically be getting into this trade already and have a pretty good risk to reward ratio right now. It's a bit of a risky one. There are several risks. Number one being the lack of follow through that we're seeing at the moment, but number two being this kind of messy area where price could easily get stuck. So it's just something to consider, guys. That turnaround might not be happening very quickly. It might not be very smooth. So this is all to say that I will mark this as a potential setup. Up to you if you want to trade it. Keep in mind the risks I've laid out for it, because they are very possibly going to impact the trade. And sorry, Jackson, I forgot to answer your question. Doesn't the trends of ranging... So basically, doesn't ranging on many pairs indicate a crazy market coming up? No. Not... I mean, it could do, but, you know, maybe... this year, all bets are off. With COVID, it's drastically changed the Forex market and how it moves and what it does. I wouldn't be making assumptions like that just based on the fact that COVID is causing a lot of weird stuff to happen. That's what I've just explained over the last 10 minutes. So you definitely missed the last 10 minutes. I'll give you a very brief summary because I don't want to go through the whole thing again and bore everyone. The large number indicates the strength right now based on the last 5 days. The smaller number indicates the potential changing strength because it's based on a lower period of around 1.5 days. So this indicates what it is based on a very small amount of data, but this small amount of data indicates a change is potentially coming. This is the more stable number, the 38.61. It's the more stable number. So the small number, the lower one, would indicate that we are going to see a switch in the strength of New Zealand USD going towards the bearish side in the coming days. So the strength not going towards the bearish side, just losing strength. New Zealand USD is probably going to lose strength in the coming few days. Euro is probably going to gain strength in the next few days because the large number is small, but the big number, the large number is minus, but the small number shows it's gaining strength. So we're going to see potentially a gain in the strength of euro. Now, this small number is much less reliable than the big number. It's much less reliable because it's based on much less data. So this number could easily just change and be positive again. So you shouldn't bet too much on this number actually ending up, you shouldn't trust this number too much. Don't put too much faith in it because it could be very misleading. It's very, very similar to the market scanner tool that we use in the chat room, where the market scanner tool has the daily results and the 4-hour chart results. The 4-hour chart results indicate changes that could be coming, but they're not as reliable as the daily. This is a very similar concept here. GPCHF. Nah, I don't see anything here. No, screw it. Last week when we were looking at sorry that's taking so long for me to do the analysis. I'm just trying to think when I'm looking at some of these pairs, especially with GBP, because last week we were looking at it, looking for a move up to resistance, and it just towards midweek it just started moving sideways, and it didn't really do anything from there. This week, since it's opened, it has been moving a little bit up, but we're just not seeing, again, we're not seeing any follow through. What I would really like to see for the pound, or at least for GBPUSD, would be a push up to this resistance area, because this resistance area is quite strong, and I'd want to take a short from this resistance area, but we're just not seeing it move to there. The start of last week was quite promising with these first two candles, but then it just went sideways. And this week so far, it's just not really breaking the range that it had last week. Right now, it is in a range. You can see these four candles. They're in a pretty tight range. Maybe it's more visible on the 30-minute chart. And I'm not saying it's a tradable range. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it's in a range. So if you drop down to the 1 hour, you can see price is stuck within this pretty narrow range. And it has been since last week. Now, right now, it looks like it wants to break out of this range, which would be quite good, which would potentially take us up to that resistance area I've been looking for since last week. But we're just not getting strong definitive moves. Hopefully, this recent strength that we're seeing in the pound is going to break out of this range. That would be fantastic. If it does, great. I'm not convinced it will, but if it does, great. So you know what? I am going to mark GBPUSD as a potential because I do want to see it hit that resistance area. And we are getting a strong move right now. It's a long way off from being a trade setup because it has to hit resistance and stall out. But hey. The numbers aren't out of anything. They're just scores based on strength. There is no real maximum score, but generally speaking, 50 is the highest number you're going to get. But if the markets were going absolutely crazy and GBP, for example, was across the board flying up at unprecedented rates, you could get numbers as high as 100, even more than that. But just the normal range of things, you're going to see minus 50 to positive 50 on this currency strength tool. That's just the general range you're going to see. It'll be very rare that you see anything above 50. So right now, 38 is a very high number. That's very, very high. It would indicate a lot of strength on New Zealand, but it is turning quite fast. So when you see such a huge turn, that indicates that we're seeing like a quick shift in the market for this pair. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if Euro New Zealand ends up being a decent reversal, even though all the things it has going against it in terms of the market just being pretty slow right now and all this messiness in its way. I wouldn't be surprised if this turns around and gives us a pretty good trade, just because we're seeing a shift in the strength of New Zealand and Euro. And the strength of New Zealand is dropping drastically, whereas the strength of Euro is not going that drastic, but it is changing. You don't want to ever use any currency strength tool based just on, like, just because this is a large number and this is a low number, you don't want to just be jumping in long on New Zealand JPY. Or if you want to use the smaller numbers, which are less reliable, what's the largest small number that we're seeing here? 13. GBP AUD is the weakest. It's getting very, very weak right now. You don't want to be just jumping in long on GBP AUD because of these numbers. It's just there to kind of support your overall trading. So don't use it as a tool to jump into trades. Use it as a tool to support your overall analysis. If there's a trade setup and the currency strength tool is supporting it, then awesome. That is kind of extra points for that setup, and it should be a safer setup. Whoa, GBPAUD is really climbing. AUD is getting really weak right now. It was already not that strong. It was just kind of 0.65. But it's really, really, really getting some weakness right now. And the pound is gaining some strength. I want to see what happens when it hits that resistance area, though. What are we up to? New Zealand USD. We were looking at this one last week. I'm somewhat interested in this still. So the currency strength tool is supporting us again in this for this setup. Not the big numbers, but currency strength tools just in general for reversal trading are not the best. So just putting that out there. That's the reason I've designed this one to have this small number 2, because this small number is great for telling us that a reversal is coming. So most currency strength tools, they'll have just a single number score, and they'll be basing it on some very limited data. So I've designed this tool to help me spot upcoming reversals as well as good trends. So that's the other reason this small number is important. So right now, New Zealand is quite strong, USD is quite weak. So if New Zealand's strong and USD is weak, then we're going to get a bullish move, generally speaking, on New Zealand USD. But for reversals, we're looking for New Zealand to be weak and USD to be it's always confusing when I'm explaining the weakness and strength. We're looking for New Zealand to be weak and we're looking for USD to be strong, because that would cause price to drop. So we are seeing that shift right now. New Zealand is getting weak, USD is getting strong. Is that going to give us a reversal setup? I'm not convinced yet. What I would want to see would be price stalling out on the daily chart for me to actually make that decision. So I'd want to see price stalling out here, and then I'd be looking for a short setup tomorrow. So let's imagine that this candle closes exactly as it is right now. I'd be looking for a setup sort of like this with an entry below the low of that candle, stop loss above the high, and a target around about down here, but I would want to extend that down to there if I could. The expectation where? At the end of the day, I'm not saying that New Zealand USD is going to go down. I'm saying I'm waiting for a setup that would indicate that it's going down. So is the setup indicating that it's going down there yet? No. I'm going to wait for a setup that indicates it's going down. I was talking with a bunch of traders yesterday, and they were saying very similar things to what you're saying about New Zealand. They were saying that to me about the euro. I was saying, I'm waiting for a setup to indicate that the euro is going down on the 1 hour chart. And I posted this setup to the forum. And this was at around about this point here. It was around about 12, lunchtime yesterday. I said, I'm waiting for a setup to indicate that the euro is going down. And they're like, no, don't go short on the euro. The euro is going up to 113. I think they said 1138. No, they said 114. 1.14. They said it's going up to there for sure. And I said, yeah, that could be. I'm not going to go short right now. I'm not saying that it's not going to head up. I'm saying if I see a setup that would indicate that it's slowing down, then I will enter short. So I'm not disagreeing with your analysis that it's going up to 1.14, because I really don't care if it does. All I'm saying is if it hits my resistance area, and if it stalls, and if it starts to turn around, then I would see a viable short setup. And all I got was blah, 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 that's not going to happen, that can't happen, euro is going to go up because of this, this and that, this economic factor, these traders are all buying, whatever. What happened eventually? the setup came. Okay, I didn't end up taking it for various reasons. I was waiting for it to happen on the 4 hour. I didn't want to enter on the 1 hour, so I ended up skipping it. Blah blah blah. I'm not bragging here. That it sounds like I'm bragging, but that's not the point. I'm not. I could have just as easily been wrong about it turning around than I was right about it. But my point was, I don't like to base my trading decisions on news and stuff saying, oh, this is going to go to there. Euro is going to go to 1.14. New Zealand is going to go to 0.65, whatever. I don't want to base my trading on that, because all it's going to do is keep me out of trades that I should otherwise be in. I should have been in this trade. I didn't not enter this trade because of what they were saying. That had zero effect on it. I was just waiting for the 4 hour chart setup, and it turned around a bit too fast, so I wasn't able to get into the trade. So that was the reason I didn't enter. If it didn't turn around as quickly, or if I had decided to go on the 1 hour, I would be in the trade. But my point is, I just wait for the setup and I trade it. If I get the setup, I trade it. I keep it simple. I have my rules. If I get the setup, I trade it. I don't care if someone says, well, this is supposed to go there, because what's supposed to happen is not always going to happen. And what one guy thinks is supposed to happen, a whole lot of other people don't think that's going to happen, and they're going to trade accordingly. And when I say people, I mean the smart money, the big boy traders. They might completely disagree. They might trade accordingly, and the market's going to go somewhere else. So, as for your expectation, Mike, I'm not saying that you're wrong, or wherever you're getting this info from. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying, if I get the setup, I'm going to trade it. If I don't care. So could it go up? For sure. Right now, we're seeing some stalling. So I wouldn't be surprised if it stalls out here on top of this resistance area and then starts turning around. If it does, I'll definitely be looking for that short setup, because it looks pretty solid right now. It's a pretty strong resistance area. Price hasn't been above here since end of Jan, so quite some time now. Pretty much, what is that? It's a 6-month high. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to base your trade on currency strength tool or the smart money positioning tool. They're both just kind of aids. They aid our trading, but they don't tell us where to trade. But a lot of these tools are supporting right now. I'll get these numbers updated. I don't know why they're not updating yet. I'll figure that out. But New Zealand, the smart money is starting to go short on New Zealand more and more so. But they're also going short on the US dollar. So that doesn't help us much for this short setup here. But it does seem like the smart money is starting to pile on short on USD based on the most recent data that I am seeing. And we are seeing a turnaround, and coupled with a nice indecision candle, which we like to look for on a pretty strong resistance area, which we like to look for. I'll definitely be looking to get in short here tomorrow if it continues to stall, and if tomorrow's candle starts turning around and pushing down. So there's a lot of ifs there, but if they all come true, I'll be looking for a setup. Boom, boom. Nothing there. So, that wraps it up for the analysis, guys. A bit of a long one. I babbled on a bit, but there's some interesting stuff happening. So GBPAUD is in a pretty decent range. So maybe on the 4 hour would be, yeah, ideal. I want to see you hit the top of that range, stall out here, and go down. That would be ideal. Now, it could also very possibly start pushing up again. We could be seeing this being the bottom of this major trend on GBP, and we could be seeing a turnaround in the trend, which would open us up to a whole lot of other options for trades. Right now, because it's still within the range and it hasn't broken it yet, I'm looking for shorting the top of the range. But if the range just gets smashed through, so does this resistance area, so does the 200 moving average. Actually, no, 200 moving average is well away on the daily. So there's this support area. Then I'll be looking for different kinds of things. So what I'm going to do right now is just set an alarm. Near to the top here, just so I get a bit of an indication when it hits the resistance, the top of the range, and then I'll be looking for a short there. EURCAD, this one, it's not great. I'm just waiting for price to hit the bottom of the range, but you know, there's 90% chance I won't trade this one. It's just too messy. It's worth looking at though, so I'll just keep it marked. Euro New Zealand is somewhat interesting. We're getting a turnaround. We're getting some weakness starting to come through on the New Zealand dollar. We're getting some strength starting to come through on the euro. It's sitting firmly on top of support. But like I said, I've gone into detail about this being an overall pretty risky setup. There's a lot going against it. Just the general market conditions that we're not seeing follow through in the market. But also with this one, the big thing is just this messiness through here. Then you got, I don't even think I mentioned the 200 moving average, which is a nice little resistance area that could cause price to slow down. So this one comes with a lot of risk. But it's certainly worth keeping an eye on. You could enter if you want to. So yeah. You think GBPUSD is going to return to the channel it was in on the weekly? Interesting. Which channel is that? I mean this. This is just a guess. I don't know if this is what you're talking about. But I imagine it's this channel here. Maybe it is, but you know, it's two different things completely. I'm looking at the 4-hour chart right now. The weekly chart is way out of the scope of what I'm looking at the moment. But I wouldn't be surprised if it returns back into that channel eventually. Just overall, I think that it is probably going to start pushing up from here. I think that's the most likely case scenario. I just don't really see it going down that much further. But hey, I've been wrong before. And like I've been saying, I don't really trade those kinds of predictions of long-term where the price is going. I just trade what I see on the charts because it just keeps things simpler. So yeah, I think it's probably going to go up. I do agree with you, but I've been wrong before, and I'm not going to let my thinking it's going up stop me from getting in short if I see a good setup. Summary GBPUSD. What were we looking at for G? Oh yeah, the long, of course. Nice. We're getting some real strength on the pounds right now. It just shot up again. This is what I wanted to see. I want to see price push up, hit this resistance area. That would be amazing. So basically, we just need it to break last week's high. It just hit last week's high. It just hit it, and it looks like it wants to break it, but it hasn't quite broken it yet. The next tool I'm making for you guys is going to be the best tool out of all of these. The currency strength tool and the smart money positioning tool, they're pretty handy, but overall, they're not as good as a pure price action reading tool. But a pure price action reading tool is a bit harder to program. So that's kind of like a little side project I'm working on right now. When that tool comes out, combining the results of all these together into an overall dashboard will give us a very good indication of the direction price is heading. Because not only will we be using currency strength calculations, we'll be using price action calculations, which is what we're mostly trading based on, price action. And then with a little bit of data from where the smart money is going. But that's mostly for longer term stuff. It'll give us a very good indication of the direction of trends and when that direction is changing. I got sidetracked there for a second, but my overall point was that GBP is gaining some strength and it's breaking. It looks like it's about to break last week's high. A break of a weekly high in terms of price action is a pretty strong indication that bulls are in control. So here, what we want to see essentially is a break of last week's high, but then immediately after that, we have this kind of, what is it? It's a 2-week high essentially right after it. So these two are very, very close together. So almost like we should just ignore the break of the weekly high and just focus on the break of this high. If it breaks this high, then I'd be pretty convinced that the bulls are quite strong right now and that this is going to head up to this resistance area, which is ultimately what I want to see. So yeah, I'm going to be looking for that push up to resistance. And finally, New Zealand USD. Yeah, I made my... I spent a lot of time talking about this one, so I don't really think it needs much of a wrap-up. Just looking for a potential short. Probably something that I would not really enter until tomorrow because I want to see price stall out on this resistance area. Then I want to see some bearish movement pushing down to get me into that trade. So not anything I want to enter immediately. I want to be convinced that we're actually seeing a turnaround and that it's not just temporary, because these numbers here, keep in mind that they could just be temporary because these are less, let's just call them more sensitive. These lower numbers, they're way more sensitive to changes. So they indicate a change is coming, but what if that's just a temporary change? And then it's just slowing down temporarily, and then it goes boom, and it pushes straight through, which is totally possible. If that happens, then these numbers won't really mean anything because they were just giving us an idea of a temporary slowdown. So I don't want to enter based on a temporary slowdown. I want to enter on an actual shift in power from bulls to bears, which is why I'm going to wait for this daily candle to close. And then tomorrow I want to see bears take control and start pushing down, and only then will I enter. So yeah. That's what I'm looking for here. Are there any questions, guys, or shall we wrap this one up? Well, like I just said about New Zealand USD, I want to see, I want to be convinced that we're seeing a shift in price. I don't want to see just a temporary shift. So I'm not going to trade the 8 hour. Now, if you want to get in on the 8 hour, it's going to be a lot more risky because that could be just a temporary shift in price. So that could be temporarily bears are taking control, but overall, because New Zealand is still overall pretty strong, it's just going to continue to move up. I want to see the daily chart stalling, and I want to see pushing down on the daily chart tomorrow, because that's a stronger indication that the bulls are actually out of strength and that bears are taking control. Looks like that is all the questions, so I'm going to wrap this one up. Yeah, no problem. I think the tools are pretty good, but I think it's all really going to come together when I get the price action tool up and running. I think that is going to be a big game changer for all of us. And then when I get a full dashboard going that incorporates all of these tools and gives a kind of a score for each currency, and then ultimately a score for each pair, which is only a few weeks out. It's something that I'm working pretty hard on. I'm focusing a lot of my time on doing this because I have been doing it sort of manually for a while in an Excel spreadsheet. And the data is insanely useful. So transferring it to an actual app that you could use on your phone or just on the website is going to be a real game changer for you guys. Because it'll keep you out of a lot of bad trades, essentially, is its main purpose. But it'll also indicate a lot of very strong upcoming trades. It's stuff that you could really just do yourself if you have a lot of time to go through the charts and analyze each and every pair. But the tool will just do all of that work for you and give you a list. This is the ultimate dashboard tool that I'm talking, like the end goal for the dashboard. It would just give you a list of the best currency pairs to trade today and potentially for the higher time frame stuff, the best currency pairs to trade this week. So it would just cut down on a lot of the analysis work, which is very good for busy traders. But anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys very much for attending. I'll see you guys for tomorrow's analysis, which should be at the same time tomorrow. Thursday's analysis is going to be at 1 p.m. instead of 12, or maybe I'll do it at 10 a.m. instead. I'm not 100% sure. But we'll see how that goes. So yeah, thank you guys very much for attending, and I'll see you for tomorrow's analysis.